he introduced me to his parents. She's like, get out while you can. He's a bad person. I was like, ready for it? I wake up one morning and I'm like, no text from him. This is like ghosting like no other. And she said that she had to prove to herself that she could have sex with him. But this situation, like ghosting, I don't think you can get over because there's no closure. Hello honeys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you're just joining me now, then hi, my name is Imogen. Hi, I'm really glad that you found me. I don't know how you found me, but make sure you subscribe, hit the like button. I am like the most excited I've ever been to film a video because this is story time. This is story time. Like, we're back with a story time. We are back with a story time. Some of you mentioned that I hadn't done story times in ages, and I haven't, and I'm back. Your baby girl is back. I have got a lot of story times coming your way, and if you wait for it, there will be all the ex-boyfriend story times that you requested. But today we are talking about one boy in particular, and also one girl. So to my huns who are going through heartbreak, to my huns who have been through heartbreak, to anyone that needs a little pick-me-up, I'm giving you a story time and a half. So today's story time is going to be about when she slept with him. Dun dun dun. So let's get in with the story time. So basically the story starts back in London. I used to live in London. I lived in London for 5 years. During that period I wasn't very well and I was in hospital. When I was in hospital, a girl visited me that was my friend. She then introduced me to a friend of hers. I then started becoming a lot closer with the other girl as well. So let's say their names, pretend names. So Felicity introduced me to Katie, and I was really close with Felicity, but then Katie, I became really close with Katie as well. So it was amazing. So I was like, oh, I've made a friend from being in hospital, just from, you know, Felicity bringing her in. Anyway, it then starts getting to the point where Katie comes to visit me without Felicity, and she'd come to visit me in hospital, and it was amazing. So I was like, oh, I've got friends, because obviously I was in hospital for a very long time, and having friends in hospital is like the best thing in the world because you feel so alone. So Katie is the girl of the story. Katie is the girl of the story. I'm sure a lot of you might have had a Katie. I hope no one's had a Katie, but I've had a Katie. Katie and me formed a best friendship. Now, I have this thing where I meet someone, after like 3 weeks, I'm like, they're my best friend. They're my best friend. I can tell them my world. They're my best friend. And it was when I was not very well. It was in a time where I was living in London with some really, really horrible girls. I will link up here the failed friendship story times about those girls that were awful. I lived with some nasty, nasty pieces of work, like genuinely, whoa. It was incredible to find out that Katie lived around the corner from me in London. I was like, what? So when I got out of hospital, I would see Katie a lot, like genuinely a lot. And I would go to Katie's a lot of the time because I didn't want to stay in the flat with these girls because they were just so horrible. And because Katie lived so close, I mean, I remember one night, this was like horrendous. I remember one night the girls that I was living with brought some boys back, and you had locks on the indoor, like the inside of the door. And I obviously locked my room because they used to steal from me and stuff, but it's fine. But when I was in the room, it was like 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning. I didn't get invited on this night out because obviously they didn't like me. It was wonderful. But when they got back with the boys were banging on my door with the girls' heels, and the girls were like running up and down outside my door, and they were like, wake the witch up, you awake witch, like swearing at me. I remember calling my dad, and my dad was like in Brighton, and he was like, what the hell, do you know what I mean? Like really, he felt so stuck. He was like, I don't know what to do. But I remember calling Katie, and Katie was like, come, just come to mine. Like it was like 2:33 in the morning, and I was just so grateful I had a friend like Katie because I really thought we were really close friends. I do tend to be naive in friendships, and I do tend to get very connected to someone quickly. Like when I meet someone, I'm like, best friend. Then I see them all the time, every single day, and then it fizzles out and I'm like, I had a best friend for 2 months. You know, I think that's why people are like, you've had so many friends. I'm like, yeah, I think it's because I've been to so many different schools, I've lived in so many different places, that I think that's why I've just met a lot of different people, genuinely. I mean, I used to have a lot of friends on my Facebook, but I didn't even know any of them. I've deleted my Facebook now, so I don't actually have to come into contact with anyone that was nasty to me or anything like that, so it's wonderful. But this is where we're going with the story. We are going somewhere. So Katie was very different to me in the sense that we had really different upbringings. I'm not going to go into her upbringing because, you know, not fair. But we had very, very different upbringings. I'm very lucky and very grateful to have the parents I had around me. But she grew up in a completely different area to me. She grew up in London, and she was around a lot of boys that were not doing the best things. Not doing the best things. So at the time she was single, she'd previously dated someone who wasn't a very good person. So we were both single, we were loving life, you know. I'd been single for a long time in London. We were just chilling, loving life. I was so anti-men. I was like, I just want to be single, you know, hear me out, love my lives. Because you know about my ex-boyfriends, and if you don't know, then you're going to have those story times very soon. But I was just very much like, don't want to get my heart broken, not up for it, just want to be single, and if the right person comes along, he does. And then I met my fiance and I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm getting married. So after this story time, this is why I feel like I can tell these stories now, because I'm getting married and I feel like, see you later, boys, I'm out. But I feel like I should share these stories because I know a lot of people have to deal with a boy, a girl. Like, I genuinely think that we all go through this. Genuinely, we all have something like this. As I'm getting closer to Katie, we're going out a lot, and then the other girl, Felicity, was a little bit funny about the fact that we were so close. But Felicity had really close friends as well, so it wasn't really that much of a big deal. With Katie, we were so different, and I think that's why we were really close, because we balanced each other out. But I have this tendency to attract quite cold friends because I'm so loving, and obviously opposites attract. But Katie was so cold. I have to say this, by the way, like, I genuinely mean this when I say this. Katie is like the most gorgeous woman I've ever met in my life. Like, genuinely, everyone used to meet Katie and be like, oh my god. Like, naturally, like, no makeup. I used to wake up next to her and be like, you are unbelievable. Like, unbelievable. But when I used to tell her like how beautiful she was and all those things, I never got a compliment ever in my life. Like, she'd always say to me, I'm weak because I put up with bad friends. Like, the girls I was living with, she was like, you're weak, like, go and tell them. Like, because she was a lot more confrontational than me. She had a lot more balls than me, because she'd had a different upbringing. Like, she doesn't mind like starting on someone. Like, she's quite feisty. If someone tells her something, she's about to come for you. She doesn't care. But I'm very much like, I can be confrontational when I get pushed, but other than that, I let the people that are close to me walk over me, if you know what I mean. Like, back then, those girls used to walk all over me. Now I won't take any prisoners. No, I'm joking, but you know what I mean. Like, you live and learn, and you grow up and you get over it, and you think, actually, I would never stand for that again. But when you're younger, it's harder. I was like 20 living in London. I was living with 4 other girls who didn't like me. Like, that was quite a struggle. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm the minority here. But she'd always really be nasty to me about it. Like, she'd always be like, you're so wet. Like, you're getting bullied and you know it and you don't even care. Like, go around and tell them. Like, stop being such a pussy. Like, she'd be so like that. But anyway, I'm getting to the boy part now. So me and Katie were getting closer and closer and closer, spending every single day together, like every day. We lived like 5 minutes away from each other. And the reason I really loved her as a friend, I think, was because I idolised how strong she was. Because I was like, oh wow. And also, I have this tendency where I really like to help people if I feel like they're cold or they're insecure, or I feel like they have like worries. And she had been through quite a lot growing up. So I felt like, I'm here, I'm gonna save you, like, I'm gonna make you happy. Do you know what I mean? I do that a lot. I'm a people saver. I like to save people. It's a bit silly, but anyway. So she introduces me to this boy. We went out for dinner and she started seeing his friend. And who's this? 121's calling me. Wonderful, love that. It's the only phone call I get. My fiance, my mum, my dad, or voicemail. So she introduced me to this boy. We went for dinner and she started seeing his friend. And it was kind of perfect because they were best friends. We were best friends, and I was like, we're gonna double date, we're gonna just, you know. But at the same time, I was like, don't want a boyfriend. Do you know what I mean? Has anyone ever been in that headspace? Like, loves the idea of a boyfriend, but also runs away. Oh my god, that scared me so much. Something just broke off the wall. Oh my god, that actually scared me so much. Did you see my face? Anyway, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness, there's a spirit in the room. So I thought it was gonna be perfect. I was like, you know, double dates, love and life. I wasn't necessarily interested in this guy, but it was convenient because I was like, you know, my best friend's seeing his best friend, and this boy was a bad boy. So I was like, don't want a boyfriend, but maybe I could just have someone to go out with. Like, it was really bad, but because I was in such a bad place of hating men and being heartbroken and being really like, oh, I don't want to date another man, it was so easy for me to be like, don't really care, like, let's just go and have fun. Do you know what I mean? No sex or anything like that, but just fun in the sense that we'd go on dates and maybe have a kiss. Like, it was just that. It was never anything deeper for me. But I also have this tendency, you'll realise a lot of tendencies in this video, I also have this tendency where I attract boys that get very attached quickly, but then ghost. And it's like they're scared of the emotions that I bring out of them. It's so weird. It's so strange. Like, I'm flattered that they care, but it's like you'd rather someone just slowly like you and then not ghost. Like, when I mean ghost, I mean, this is like ghosting like no other, and you wait till you hear this story. So, this is getting good. This boy and me start going on our own little private dates because they were going out on their dates and so were me and him. Now, she starts telling me she's not really into her boy. I was like, oh no. The only reason I started talking to this boy was because I thought it was going to be a double date sitch, like we were going to love our lives and have a good summer. No. She was like, no, I'm not interested in him. And I was like, oh no. And she could flip like that. She didn't like someone that was too nice to her. She hated it, so she just ran a mile. And I was like, oh no. It's so funny how when you have to think of names, you can't come up with them. Okay, we'll call him Tom. So, Tom had never been in a relationship before. He was always a bit of a playboy. All the girls, you know, used to come to him because he thought he was a bad man kind of thing. He came from a really nice background. His mum and dad were still together. He had siblings. They were very stable. His dad had a really good job. He had a lovely house round the corner from where I was living. And he had it pretty much made. However, I don't know what he went through as a childhood. I don't know. Like, I don't know. But he'd never introduced a girl to his parents. He'd never introduced anyone to anyone. He was very much like the kind of boy that just sleeps with someone and just jogs on. I said to him straight away, I was like, if you want to have sex with me, it's not happening. Like, I would only ever have sex with someone I'm in a relationship with, because, like, I've been there. Like, I've had my relationships. I'm single now, so if you want to respect me, you can. If you don't, I don't really care. See you later. So I think he liked that. I think he liked that because maybe he'd been handed it to a plate, you know, handed it on a plate before. So I think he just quite liked that. But this boy, when I mean was keen, no, he was keen for me. He was like sending flowers to my university all the time. Like, the receptionist at the university would be like, Imogen, there's something at the front desk for you. Massive bouquet of flowers, like, would turn up everywhere for me. Like, honestly, I remember I used to work in the club in London. He would drive me there every night before I started and then pick me up at 4 in the morning when I'd finish to take me back. Yeah, like, he was on it. He was on it. I was like, this boy really wants me to be his girlfriend. Bearing in mind at this time we'd already kissed. So we started going on dates and we were getting a bit closer, but I was still like, there was no sign of me ever falling in love with this boy. No chance. I was no way near falling in love with him or anything like that. But I did grow to like him. Like, I did. I look back now and I'm like, ugh. But you know, when you're like, in the time, I obviously liked him because I was upset when what happened at the end happened. I feel like you probably already know where this story's going, but let's see. So, there is a bit of a twist to the event. So then me and him are going on dates and dates and dates, and to the point where I used to live in a block of flats with these girls, and he would literally, I would walk up the stairs to go back up to my room, and he would like shout for me and be like, Imogen, I miss you already. Like, he was on it, like on it. And then, I mean, my best friend Charlotte can vouch this for me because she remembers coming up to London and visiting me and seeing him, and it was like intense. But basically, he always told me he worked in property with his dad, and we kept going on dates and he had 2 phones. Now, Imogen, brought up in Brighton, however, completely bubble wrapped by her parents, didn't really know about drugs, didn't know about drugs at all. I went to London and I was like, oh my goodness, they're everywhere. But, I wouldn't have known that 2 phones and a tiny little Nokia, you know, 3210, not even that, a 3210, like older than that, would be what it turns out to be. So I'd always be like, I'll get this dinner. He'd be like, no, I got the cash. Always paid for everything in cash. Big warning sign. The little phone, always paying for things in cash. Well, we find out. So then we're getting closer and closer and closer, and he's like, I want you to be my girlfriend. I'm like, oh, it's not been long enough yet, blah, blah. And just quickly on the side of it, Katie was getting really funny that we were getting so close because she sacked his friend off now, and she kept being like, I don't know why you like him, like he's messed so many girls around. I was like, okay, well, I don't really care because he hasn't really messed me around at the moment yet, and you know, everyone's allowed a second chance kind of thing. Like, I'm not going to judge him by his past because actually, I know it sounds bad, I didn't care enough. If that was someone I was really invested in, I probably would have been like, oh god, like you've been like this in the past, are you going to be like that again? I just didn't care because I just didn't think it was going to go anywhere. If I'm honest, I really didn't, and I'm glad it didn't. So we started going on loads of dates, and then, bearing in mind, I'm telling you, he used to call me every single day, text me all day, come visit me every night. Even if I was with Katie, he would come round and visit me, like stand outside Katie's house and be like, I just want to see Imogen for a kiss. Like, he was intense, right? Then he introduced me to his parents. Oh yeah. So I stayed over a couple of times, and also what I really liked about him was he never ever pressured me to have sex with him. I didn't, and I'm glad I didn't. But yeah, he never ever, I used to stay round, he'd be so respectful, like I'd be in my pajamas, like he wouldn't even try anything with me, but he'd still be like nice, and you know, we'd still have a nice time, whatever. And then he was like, my mum and dad are downstairs, he was like, do you want to just sneak out? Because I'd snuck out a couple of times, and he was like, actually, do you want to just go and meet them? And I was like, I've just stayed over their house, like how disrespectful, me going in and being like, by the way, I slept upstairs last night, and hi, I'm in your house. So I was like, no, I don't want to meet them yet. So then I went out, and there was a Tesco near him, so I went to Tesco and bought banoffee pie. I remember I bought banoffee pie and something else, and we went back to his house, and he was like, oh, mum and dad, this is Imogen. And I was like, I bought banoffee pie. I'm holding this little thing here, and I'm like, I bought banoffee pie. And they were like, oh, hi, nice to meet you. And they were so shocked, because they'd obviously met friends of his that were girls, but not a person he actually liked. And he'd mentioned my name a couple of times, so they were like, his mum was like, oh my goodness, Tom's never introduced someone to us. And I was like, oh wow, this boy must actually really like me, because no one would do that. And his dad was like, oh my goodness. And his mum said that was really pretty, and he said to me that his parents really liked me. I then went around a couple more times and met his parents. His parents were like, oh my goodness. They were like, finally, he's settling down. Like, they were so happy. They were like, finally, my boy, like he's got a girlfriend and he actually wants to stay put, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, I'm not his girlfriend yet. And they were like, really? You're not even his girlfriend, he's bringing you around here. I was like, he must really like me. So then I tell my friend Katie this. I remember calling her and being like, I just met his parents. And she was like, what? She's like, no, you didn't. I was like, I just met his parents. And like, as a friend, if my friend called me and was like, just met his parents, I'd be like, yes, my girl, he likes you, like, that is the one, you know, kind of thing. She was fuming. She was like, get out while you can. He's a bad person. I was like, what have you got against him? So then I remember saying to Tom, I was like, has anything ever happened between you and Katie? He was like, I think she tried to get me back in year 9, but I wasn't really on it. And I was like, no one would hold a grudge from year 9. Do you know what I mean? Like, she's not going to care when she's like 13, 14. She's not going to care. This is where it gets funny. So I go from seeing the boy every single day, all the time, meet me on lunch breaks, take me to work at night, very intense, too intense, not healthy, to ready for it. I wake up one morning and I'm like, no text from him, not normal, but I'm fine. I'm like, he's probably just sleeping, like chilled. All day, didn't hear from him. I was like, I'm not gonna text him first. But there was a point in my head where I was like, what is actually going on? But then I don't hear from him that night. I don't hear from him the next day. I don't hear from him for 1 month. 1 month. But wait, it gets better. I knew all his friends because he'd introduced me to all of them, and they were all around my area all the time because they were from that area. Bearing in mind, let me just quickly tell you this, my text messages bounced back. You call it, it's like you've been blocked. The phone number has completely been cut off. And I'm like, has something happened to the boy? Like, I was actually worrying after like the first 2-3 days. So then I saw one of his friends. I thought, oh my goodness, I honestly thought, oh my goodness, this boy is like the biggest player in the world. Obviously, he's just absolutely slide me over. Like, I was literally like, this boy's completely messed me around. Like, I was like, Katie was right. I called Katie, I was like, he's horrible, blah, blah. So then a week goes past, I've texted him, tried calling him, obviously not going through at all. And I was like, I actually was hurt because I was like, this boy has gone from being obsessed with me to actually dropping off the face of the earth. Then I'm thinking, has something happened to him? Then I see his friend around my area. I was like, what's actually happened to Tom? And they were like, I think you should go round and see him. And I was like, go round and see him? Like, why would I need to go round and see him? Like, what? I was like, I'm not going to go around seeing someone who's just ghosted me. They were like, I think you need to go and see him. I was like, what's happened to his phone? And they're like, I think you need to go to his house. I'm like, I'm not going to turn up to his parents' house and be like, hi, we were like seeing each other, but you ghosted me, because I'm not that person. I don't care if we don't work out. At least call me and be like, hun, it's not for me. And I'd be like, sweet, you weren't for me. See you later. Do you know what I mean? But this situation, like ghosting, I don't think you can get over because there's no closure. There's no like, it's done, see you later, we're done, like, you weren't for me, I wasn't for you, whatever, or I found someone else, and I'd be like, okay, well, I've got to get over it. But this, you know what I mean? A month passed, a whole month. I saw his friends a couple of times, they were like, he says hello, like, Tom's sending his love. I was like, Tom is sending his love? I was psycho, I was like, He is sending his love. No, no, no. I told his friends, I said, you go and tell him to send his love and shove it right up, you know. So his friends were like, Imo, like, calm down. I was like, no, don't tell me to calm down. I was like, just get him out of my life. Like, see you later. Like, don't speak to me about him. I'm out. And bearing in mind, during this monthly process, Katie was like, I knew he'd do that. Like, he's a snake. Like, at least you saw it coming. Like, she was like, I saw it coming. I was like, right, that's nice. But you know when your friend's there and also hates that person, you're like, sweet. Like, you can both just slag him off. You're like, he's horrible. I can't believe he did this to me. You know what I mean? So we're both in this mutual agreement of like, we hate Tom. And she's like, don't worry about it. Like, at least you saw it now. Like, you're out. You know, you deserve better. All these things. And I was like, I love you. I love you, Katie. But during this month, we weren't that close. Like, suddenly, she was ghosting me a bit. Like, I was like, have I done so wrong? Like, I was like so confused by it, because you know when you're so close to someone and then all of a sudden it's sort of been like that and you're like, I want to be like this again, but then it's just gone like that. So I wasn't seeing her much at all. I'd call her and ask to see her. She was already seeing this other boy, and it was a boy that I'd kissed when I was like in first year of uni, and I was just a bit like, that's a bit weird. But anyway, you know, and you're just a bit like, whatever. She starts seeing this boy, and then she says, oh yeah, he told me he kissed you. And I was like, yeah, I told you that ages ago. And she was like, yeah, he like laughed it off and was like so embarrassed by it. I was like, thank you, that's really sweet. You know, and you're like, oh, okay, I must be a bad kisser. But actually I know I'm a good kisser, so it's fine. But basically, long story short, it came out when I went to a club, because this girl, Katie, was working at the club, and I went to meet her. I went to meet her and she said, wait outside, and I was like, oh, it's cold out here, I'm coming inside. So I went inside. Now, when I go inside, I go to the toilet, and I literally haven't seen this boy for a month. I walk into the toilet, I come out of the toilet, and I bang into Tom. Like, when I mean bang, I'm like, oh, hi, like that. And you know when you're like fuming? He was like, Imo, how are you? I was like, Imo? How am I? I was like, yeah, I'm fine, hun. How are you? See you later. So I start walking off, and he's like, Imo, come back. Can we go out on the balcony and have a chat? And I was like, well, I don't really want to. I was like, what have you got to say? I was like, I'm waiting for Katie. He was like, you're waiting for her? And I was like, don't use that tone. That's my best friend. Like, don't you dare be nasty about her. Backing her, right? So then we go to the balcony, because he's like dragging me, and he's like, please just hear me out. And I'm like, I'll hear you out, because maybe it'll give me some closure. Like, you really are not a very nice boy. Do you know what he says? You'll die. I say, your phone was off. You just ghosted me. I said, listen, hun, I don't care that you don't like me. You could have just said to me, Imo, you're not for me. And I would have been like, okay, I'm a bit hurt, but with the ghosting situation. He was like, listen. He was like, I've got to be honest with you. And I was like, okay, be honest with me. And he was like, I don't do good things. And I was like, what do you mean you don't do good things? And he was like, well, like, I had to go missing for a bit. And I was like, excuse me? I was mortified. I was like, what? Then it all starts clicking. I said to him, I don't want to hear anymore. I don't want to hear anymore. I said, I don't want to hear anymore. Don't want to know about it. I was like, oh God, like, what have I got myself into? You know what I mean? And then basically it all started working out. Paying for cash for everything. 2 phones. Obviously a drug dealer. Yeah, naive over here. Anyway, so I said to him, I don't want to know any more about that. Okay, fine, you did what you did. He was like, I told my friends to get you to come round. I was like, I don't want to come round. I'm fine. I'm over it now. See you later. You know, when you're like, oh God. Like, at that point, I was like, oh my goodness, I had a lucky escape. But he's like, I kept trying to like get hold of you on withheld. I was like, yeah, withheld numbers were calling me. I don't pick up withheld numbers. He's like, I called you from payphones. I was like, cool for you, bro. Like, cool story, I don't care. Then he was like, I told everyone to like tell you to come up to mine. I said, I wasn't gonna come up to your house. Anyway, I said to him, I'm done. So then I walk out. Then I go see Katie, and I'm like, she's like, what are you doing in here? I'm like, should we go? And I'm like, I've just seen Tom. She's like, what? I was like, I've just seen Tom. So she's like, he's here. I was like, yes, he's here. Thought she'd be shocked that I haven't seen him for a month and I saw him. She was like, she's more shocked that he was there. She went, oh, I didn't see him come in. I was like, okay, you did see him come in. She did see him come in, because guess what? Katie's like, I don't feel very well, I want to go home. And I'm like, okay, but I've just come out to meet you so we can go out. I'm confused. You literally called me to come out. And she's like, yeah, I don't feel very well. She's like, you go home alone. And I'm like, but babe, we live 5 minutes around the corner from each other. Just get in my taxi. She's like, no. I was like, I'm fuming. I was fuming. I was like, I've come all this way at 12 o'clock at night to meet you from finishing your door work to go out, and now you're telling me you don't feel very well. Then I'm like, I'm just gonna wait outside, because maybe I'll see her come out, and then I'll maybe be like, should we get in the same taxi? I see Tom come out of the club with Katie, and they're having a row. I can't really tell you what they were saying, but they were rowing. But I was on the other side of the road, and I walk over and I'm like, what's going on? because I thought, oh my God, she's having a go at him, like she's backing me, she is going in on him. And then Tom's like, I think you need to ask your mate. And I was like, need to ask my mate? So confused. Basically, long story short, Tom told me in front of Katie, she was like, shut up, you're lying. I was like, I don't get what's happened. I was like, I honestly don't get what's happened. Basically, Tom asked Katie to get hold of me. So when Tom went on the run or went missing, he tried to get hold of Katie to come round and visit him with me. Anyway, that didn't happen. Katie went round and they ended up having sex. Excuse me? Excuse me, sorry, what? I mean, listen, at this point, I thought he was vile and I was like, listen, you have him. But at the same time, the only reason I was hurt was because of her. I was like, even if I didn't like him, I can't believe he did that. And then she was crying. She was like, oh my God, I can't believe I did it. I can't believe I did it. Like, I don't know what came over me. I was just heartbroken about him, blah, 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 blah. So then I stormed off because I was like, no, thanks. Went and called an Uber and she didn't even really care. And then I was like, I'll meet her the next day. So I was like, we should have a chat. So I went to her house and we met. And I was like, if we do it in her house, then she's not going to start shouting and screaming in front of her mum. So then she basically tells me that she asked him out in year 9 or something like that. And he didn't want to be with her, whatever. And she said that she had to prove to herself that she could have sex with him because she couldn't get over that he liked me. So she was like, had to prove that he could sleep with me over you. That's a really messed up mentality. I was like, that is never going to help you in life. I said, if you're constantly competing with someone and want to hurt people, you will go through life destroying every relationship, every friendship you have. I said, that insecurity of yours, you have to help yourself. I literally said that to her. I was obviously crying and a bit upset because I was like, we're never going to be friends again because I don't trust you. Like, I said that to her. And that, swear on my life, was the last day I ever saw her in real life. That was the last day I ever saw her in real life. Never saw her in the flesh. Ever again after that. So weird. And I lived in the same area for another like 2.5 years and I never ever saw her ever again. But it was just sad because it's like, wow. Like, you literally had sex with someone who you don't even probably want just to prove to yourself that you're better looking than your best friend. She's a million times better looking than me. Like, a million times better looking than me. She could have had anyone in the world. I just don't get why she needed to have sex with him. But she slept with him. My best friend of the time, my best friend, slept with the boy that I was seeing. I was like, sweet. But actually, I was more upset because I was spending every day with her and then I had to go and live with these girls and I was like, oh my goodness, like, it was so lonely. And the whole of my last second year with, like, living with them was hell because I didn't have her. But then I became really close friends with another person and then that was fine. You know me, just making close friends with loads of people. But luckily, I'm very lucky. I have my 3 best friends in my life and I love them and I've been friends with them for like 10 years. So they are staying forever. Over 13 years actually, Charlotte. Anyway, I'm going to stop talking, but I really hope you like this video. Please definitely give it a massive thumbs up, hit the subscribe button for more story times. I've got so much more content coming your way. I upload every Tuesday, Thursday and Saturday. I love you all so much and until next time, I'm going to love you and I'm going to leave you. I've had so much fun doing this story time. Oh my God, I forgot to tell you. This morning, I got stung by a bee. I thought it was so cute. I was like, my little brother's down. I was like, let's go to a little country pub. Let's go take Charlie, our little dog, and he can swim in the stream. And I was so cute about it. I washed my hair with these new products and they smell unbelievable. I was stung by a bee. Can't believe it, can you? Anyway, bye. See you on Sunday.